Hello and welcome to another episode of Property-Pxrn Stars, the premium property podcast brought to you by your host, David Lindley. Shut up, you. We'll get to you in a minute.
He started already. Matt Giggs, hello.
And today, I think you probably know who our guest is. It is...
Property's Mr. Tumble. So prime, super prime.
Super prime Tumble.
All of the primes.
Not subhuman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks, gents.
How are you?
Welcome.
What am I, your 14th guest? No, actually, I noticed you had a look at 13.
Yes.
Yeah, I was hoping to make 13 because that would have been more fitting for what's going to happen today.
Well, I think,
It's the last ever show.
no.
Is it?
Yeah. Contentious, says Russell Quirk. I think not.
Is that your ambition?
Yeah, that's we're going to see how it goes. First of all, gents, here you are. Obviously, no one gets away with it. It's winter, so now we're in January.
Yeah.
There you are. So there's the hats. There you go. There's a quality bag. Be washing up in the seas of Asia, and David Attenborough will be having a proper go. Oh my God, what am I giving you there? Oh no, that's okay.
I was just wondering what was in there.
All about it's a
no.
clapper. I'm giving you the clap. I'm giving you the clap, Matt.
Oh, dear.
So Simon's taken the no branded merchandise instruction on the studio details to heart.
I did.
This was in the back of your car or something.
It absolutely wasn't. My Evoque, because again, you know, it's not even a hairdresser, it's a nail technician's car, if ever you could have one. So
What makes me laugh is the card in here. Is
He hasn't been with us for 3 years. Quick, get away. Come on, now we'll go back.
Is he
Start
still?
again.
No, is he still with you?
Look, you know, we have a
Anyway.
movable workforce. Yeah, I mean, the clap's still there.
Right, let's move on.
So this podcast happened because we had your dear friend of mine, Russell Quirk,
Yeah,
Good
on
friends,
the show.
good
my
friends.
nemesis.
And I made a comment that he was the industry's king of controversy.
Yeah.
And you took that personally.
I did a little bit, yeah. I mean, I do think we operate, you know, there's that point about you get so far on the spectrum and you come back round to it. I couldn't find anyone more absolutely heinous than Russell and his views. My problem is I fundamentally absolutely adore the fellow and everything he says because he's intelligent, he loves a wind-up,
very,
and
very intelligent.
it's just, he does everything. What I do, I've taken him out, I've tried to get it out of him, whether he just does it just to be essentially an arsehead and just wind people up or whatever else. He hasn't said it yet, but I suspect it's a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B.
Because we asked him the same question. And he said, because he gets, when you have those, as many views as he does, be them controversial or not, you're going to get people who disagree, people who argue with him online. And he genuinely doesn't care. It's not a, oh, I've just got thick skin. He doesn't care.
No, and I think that's really, it is really interesting. It's like this need for everybody to be liked by everybody. And I understand it. It's like why people find it so hard to, you know, to get going with video at the first thing. And look who's one of the best people around in the industry at the moment. You've got Michelle Gallagher, obviously, with all absolutely fantastic. You know, she admits herself, couldn't say boo to a goose when she first started working with Chris and everything else on there. Now she's past that point. But that, you know, you really have to ignore the trolls and all that side of things. I think if you flip it the other way around, look at what Donald Trump has done. You know, it's like he's got a solid base of 33% that literally doesn't matter what, that, you know, he said famously, go out into the street and shoot somebody, we'll support him there. Now, if you had 33% market share in your area, you're beating everybody else, 99% of the industry, aren't you? So understand your total addressable market. Oh, I can't believe I'm actually teaching you things. I didn't expect to do any of this.
We're off and running. He's gone from Quirk, being his best mate, to sharing some sound advice.
I will bounce around. So and I think that's really, really true, isn't it? I mean, dare I say at this time of year and everything else, you know, there's remembering our Saviour and everything else, and he preached goodwill, and look what happened to him, spoiler. So get past that need and everything else to do it. And I think, look, maybe me and Russell take the piss and go a little bit too far with it. But, you know, stop pandering, I think, is the key bit. Because definitely, I mean, I deserve to be sacked, if I don't now, every day of my career for the first 10 years of my life because I was trying to ape other people. And it's always a bit worrying, you know, people say, be yourself. Well, yeah, you need to look in the mirror first and realise that before, don't go full Whaley is what I'm saying. Don't go full Quirk.
Never go full Whaley.
No. But actually, such a liberating experience. Look at you guys now. Actually, I think you guys have always kind of done that. But that is such a liberating experience. And obviously, when you're doing that as well, and you're doing a job you work, then famously it's not work anymore, isn't it? You don't mind doing the hours.
Tell us about, but you were obviously at Repit and you were, was that a founder there?
No, I wasn't, although I'll claim to be if that makes it. If I get any more
Let's
equity
just
there,
cut
that'd be
that
great.
bit. But What were you there, if you don't mind telling?
So I sold my business into them. So it was another CRM package.
Yeah.
And I was there for 13 years. So I think, I would always say I was the bit that made it.
Yes, the difference.
And I think, going back to Russell, as I said, I am your biggest fan, full Kathy Bates style. So I've listened to all of them. And Russell talks about that, how important it is to be the face of the brands and everything else. And I think so many tech companies, I understand why. First of all, a lot of them are quite small at an early stage, and then a lot of them don't like the limelight.
Yeah.
Well, that's not an issue here. So I became that face of the business and having a face you can tag to. And it was really, really exciting stuff. I didn't have to do that really, really difficult stuff, as I'm finding now with Kerfuffle. They'd created a brand, and all they needed to do, and all I do at Kerfuffle really, of course, as you know, is tell the industry about the best kept secrets. And that's lovely, because there's not much transparency. It's only by having conversation, you guys round here, talking in your little groups, normally that you get to that. It's taken a long time, but I think by providing what I like to think of as that TripAdvisor approach, we're going to get to a greater level of kind of transparency out there.
And speaking of being centre of attention, you were the #1 headline, I think, in the industry news today, weren't you?
I was. I'll tell you what.
No, for good reason.
Not for the news update we all know is coming. No, not that one. Not the one I was worried about a few weeks ago. I'll tell you that one. No, it was just about, I was a lovely Nigel, and I was just giving him an update on some of the things we were doing around, the Relocation Agent Network, and I'd had a big chat with him, just wanted to update him. I didn't realise we were actually having a formal interview.
Oh no,
never off the record.
Never off the record. I learned that way. Do you remember Ross Renshaw?
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Loveliest little lady, and I used to take her out and thought I'm so clever, smartest guy in the room. So I got her absolutely bladdered, and she would be fantastically bladdered there, and I'd be absolutely half cut by the end of it as well. And then she'd ring me, that stuff you were talking about regarding to that. Can I quote you? Can you just get that? I said, no, that was all off the record. No, you didn't say off the record. I was like, oh god. Yeah. But I kind of like that. You've got to go. Joust for it, haven't you? Really get the attention.
Get yourself out there.
Yeah.
And so, kind of, I suppose maybe picking up where Matt left off then. Tell us about the RAN deal, because that was awesome news. Was it this year? Was it last year?
It was all part of my strategy.
The master plan.
I'd literally sat here and just said where we need to go, and it definitely didn't come absolutely out of the blue.
No,
and the absolute truth of the matter is, we were notified to it that the previous people were going to be selling it, and it had fallen down after long painful months of it, and all those hours put in at the bar, or as I would definitely say later on, networking, came to fruition, because a lot of the members said, hang on, we need to get this, who's going to pull this together? And they spoke to myself, you remember Kevin Ellis as well back when, and said, can you put it? Now, again, but maybe coming back to, we'll talk about later on what's happened to me, all those hours, as I said, I'd put in there. I'd had a bit of a 3-day session. I sort of said to Kev when he first rang up, I said, well, I can't really think how this fits in. Then Simon Bradbury phoned me up, and a minute later, luckily, the brain finally kicked into gear. This is absolutely central to everything we do. So we got really, really excited by it. Obviously, RAN, as you'll know yourselves, has been, it's going into its 30th year next year. It's always been the biggest referral network that's kind of been out there in terms of the actual referrals it does. And we were really, really pleased that Dwellworks, who sold it to us, they gave us the exclusivity and never wavered from it, and we saw it through. And so at the start of the year, we finally got it over the line. And I think the article today was talking about, it's off this peak of where it used to be years ago, 700, 800, but the quality of agents in there, your Webbers, your Miles and Bars, you've got fantastic new guys coming through all day in Miller. And that's the thing that's always, from coming back from my kind of train spotter supplier side, the RAN conference was the first thing you wanted to get to, not least because it was a belting 3-day affair, but also just because of the quality of those agents. And if we're talking about one thing here, of course, many of those are also members, obviously, you're all placed fine in country there. So there's a lot of experience and sort of gravitas. So I genuinely, I know it sounds so cheesy, they always say when they buy a football club or something like that, I feel like I'm the custodian of it. But that's genuinely how it is. So we're really excited to be given that opportunity and, take it on to the next level.
I did like that comment in there that it was like a football club. Is that the only similarity between you and Roman Abramovich?
Boy, what have you heard? They're not coming for me, are they? It certainly won't be taking any of my yachts. That's like an absolutely clear on that. No. I think like sporting analogies are always the easiest. I always look, by the way, just as a total side, but I always love this. Whatever conference you go to, and it'll be like, you know, whatever sporting star. It could be Usain Bolt, couldn't it? And then they say he gives his speech, and then this is how it links back to property management. It's like what? that need to kind of like join the two together or something like that. So yeah, it is a football club with some great things. It just needs risk, because I think the main thing is, and this is a dynamic that I've got really kind of frustrated about, is if you think about where the members they've lost, not being, some people have obviously left over the years, as you would do with 30 years organisation. The massive one has been they've been too successful for their own good. So your Hunters, your Dexters, your Romans, all these powerhouses that have been independent agents in there become corporates in their own right, and then of course they've acquired many of those. And I've apart from feeling all bitter and twisted about that, actually what you should be talking about is that's an absolute success story, isn't it? And we all have it, whether we know it or not. Understanding that exit is about having that in mind.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So what are the plans for RAN then? You talked about the growth with it today.
World domination. Yeah, it's just, look, it's about delivering on the 4 main tenets to what we're, if I'm boring you, just say.
I'm checking my notes here, trying to do a good job of this.
Fine, no, it's okay, as I said.
Trying, be the
I mean,
word.
I was here on time, you weren't, but 4 main tenets to it: providing out-of-area referrals, being able to monetize those, applicants that normally you wouldn't be able to coming out of there. Absolute main thing. Having a different USP. I mean, we're going to be talking here about the Prime thing. Rather than all these USPs getting we copied instantly and are copied instantly, having brilliant brochures, staging, all of these elements that I would say actually they're massively important, but they need to be they're the foundation, aren't they, of a prime business and everything else. What makes it different? What are some of the USPs? You can only be one in each area. It's like your old mob as well, the sister organisation, the guild there. So that's why I think that is really, really important to be said. We've been chosen, we look at the metrics very carefully, make sure they're able to perform, first of all, to close those referrals when they do. And then secondly, to be able to make sure that they have first of all validated by the other members as well, and then to check they do well from things like reviews and make sure they deliver on that. Yeah. Third parties then obviously RAN had always been quite conservative in terms of looking at supplier deals and everything else, and we're looking to obviously build up our RAN partners off that side. Yeah. And then the fourth side, and what has been really, really interesting, and why I think so many of these businesses have still been hugely, and it was only 3 years ago I think that RAN won Supplier of the Year at EA Masters. Shows how good it. But that community, the cool kids would call it a tribe, wouldn't they? But if I started doing that, I'd probably get arrested hanging around with the cool kids today. But yeah, that fraternity, that community, being able to get together, share it with non-competing agents, I think is massively important. So yeah, very exciting for us.
And then from a kerfuffle point of view, because you see, like train spotting proptech for the industry then. Yeah. So if you were opening an estate agency focused on that premium sector, the prime sector, what is some of the proptech that you would immediately go, we need that in the business? Okay,
well, I've prepared a list. This is one of those things that just look, and this is the problem, isn't it? This is why we exist. Over 850 suppliers on our platform. I don't know half of them as well as I should do. Agents, how are they meant to keep up? I always knew we were going to deal with the smaller agents who didn't have time, energy to keep up with what's going on there, and they're sick of not getting the best deals. That was dead obvious. What I've been astounded at is the amount of corporates who are our clients now who say, get us the tech at the earliest possible stage, because it's not much fun, right? Is it investing in tech or suppliers just because all your competitors have it? You want to have it in the marketplace yourself to do as much impact there. So I've long been thinking about, when I have enough hours in the day, doing a bit like, rather than fantasy football, fantasy prop tech. I mean, it's just so obvious, isn't it? I'm boring myself. And literally you give an agent 2,000 quid a month or whatever else, and where do they spend it? I think that'd be quite an interesting thing. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you've got to look at, obviously it's about, I get really frustrated when you see on all the groups and things like that. What's the best CRM?
Most commonly asked question.
Most commonly asked question. It's like the most stupid thing. As I said, I drive in a Vogue, so you've got batshit mental in Manchester, 3 days sunshine a year. Yeah. But what's the best car? If you're going off-roading, a Porsche or a Tesla isn't the best idea, is there? Yeah. Same with agency. Understand those, and this is really important. Just because the laziest thing to do is to talk to people when you're considering suppliers and talk to, testimonials from other agents who, what's the point of Savills talking to a one-office agent up in Hartlepool and vice versa? Understand your part of the marketplace and try and find peers. So that's me, just my other podcast is coming up. I should have been out there by now, but you kept me waiting. And And so that element about, just really understanding the niche you're in. I mean, I think there are some must-haves, some really obvious ones.
Do agents understand the niche they're in, though? Full stop. Not just about asking questions in the groups, like you've just said, but is that one of the problems that estate agents have? They're trying to maybe look general. They're looking generally.
Yeah, you're saying some of them are delusional. That's definitely the case. It's a
is-
mystery why I've survived in this industry. Is calling people.
But it's possibly one of the biggest challenges that I have. They're trying to please all parts of the market.
Yeah, and that is probably one of the biggest lessons I took just in my whole life at Repeat as well. Understanding, this is way back when, they've changed now, they can do everything. But even in the early days, I used to say that, Repeat was always very well known for larger agencies, enterprise agencies, but I said obviously it could do smaller agencies and everything else. And I was predicating that on the likes of W.A. Ellis were using it, or Spencer at Paramount. There are single offices, and this is why I hate offices as a barometer of charging. Just because Rightmove went down that approach doesn't mean that everyone else should. It's broken with the EXP model and associate models anyway, and suppliers need to get their head around that. So, I think that approach is really, really difficult to try and get right. I think that understanding the basics, and so some of the basics there. So, I think, are you an Ackerboom client?
No.
So,
no.
You'll be aware of Ackerboom, aren't you? So, Ackerboom, that presentation tool there, for those people that are out there still sending either a PDF or just a faffy sort of, normal email. Well, that's just not good enough anymore, that, to be able to have that presentation as well, so a proper prime presentation tool with all the wonderful nurturing and thing around it, no brainer. Again, listening to both Chris Watkins with an S and Russell on there, they both spoke about that importance and what the Savills and the Knight Franks do brilliantly well about being the experts in their own area, research departments. Now, not everyone can have research departments, but people can afford Chris. People can afford Data Loft. So that's vitally important, isn't it? I tell you, so many people have spoke about it. Elaine mentioned it as well, talking about the staging, that Australia in many ways is better along with that. That understanding and proposing yourself, putting yourself forwards as the experts in your area, even if it's hyperlocal, and again, taking it down rather than, we cover all this area. Is it really a core area? No, it's not, is it? So, some of the very best Aussie agents we used to deal with over there, and they were still only doing this on spreadsheets, which I keep saying should be the supplier of the year, let's be honest. Because it's in every business, and property management departments and accounts wouldn't live without it. But they would literally have just 6,000 chimney pots, which sounds far too small for most people there. But they would own that. So they would have literally every street down on there. They would then put those. I saw you have the interview with the Harcourts, there's people there. Yeah.
So that's 6,000 households for one agent.
One agent, yeah. So, and it's really important to understand, obviously, those are individuals normally within those effective business units, or, but essentially one person really gets to own that and becomes that face, that hyper-local thing, as digital mayor, as Chris again would eulogise about when he's not throwing out bullshit stats. It took 14 minutes, by the way, for him to stop throwing those stats around, which I can contest. Well, the left side of your brain, and we listen to stories. I was listening to stories there anyway, so I digress. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter. I just like to call him out.
And called out he is.
So what tech would you use as a pre?
So I used to blag when I left Repeat, and I set up a consultancy, as all useless wankers do. I started, first of all, I wanted to I understood Prime, so I found out what the best out there, Josh Regan was charging £5,000. So I charged £5,001 a day. I never got hired for a day, but I used to go out, and it was dead easy. It was blagging it, because unless you get the foundations of especially your tech stack, but your suppliers right, everything else you do is wasted anyway there. So your holy trinity, if you like, the CRM system, or good old estate agency software as I started, your website, and then a nurture system. It used to just be email, but it's moved on from there. So whether that's your brief, your markets, your icebergs, your life cycles, and things like that. That approach in terms of getting those three right, and those three, what my frustration is, but where the huge opportunity is people need to get those working absolutely in tandem together. The one system to rule them all, to get all Bilbo Baggins about it, is not here, but it's getting closer and closer, where brilliant companies like your Starburys, your Home Flows will work very closely with the CRM systems in true biodirectional sort of information being updated. That should work hand in glove, obviously, with the nurture tool.
Yeah.
And, I think, again, really, really interesting, the differences between America and Australia. Whereas you'll hear people almost talk about, the size of their database or database over there, really 40,000 people. Really? Do you know any? Can you talk about any of them?
Yeah.
We don't know it, but it used to be almost something you'd show off about, wasn't it? People would never archive people out of their CRMs because once they're archived, that's them disappeared out forever. But it meant then that's why people talk fondly about hot boxes. You could know them, feel them, and everything else. The Aussies, some of the best ones we owe over there. They used to, really keep that down to, just a few dozen people in there in terms of actual buyers so that they could, keep it really, really with the people who are engaged and ready to go. And because of that, they were much more on the ball, I felt, in terms of there. And then leave the nurturing, which is vitally important, to the systems over there.
So maybe related to that point then, where do you, if you had to play PropTech fantasy football, where do you see the next 12 months going?
Well, it's AI, isn't it? Let's be absolutely honest about it. But AI or machine learning before the cool kids again got involved with it. It is genuinely one of those absolutely transformational ones.
How do you see it actually being implemented other than creating funny pictures on Facebook?
Well, yeah, so that thing about singularity and it taking over.
Chris is loving it, isn't he?
Yeah,
God.
Latest toy. He's got that before Christmas. He's gone absolutely mad with it. That point about we all know that eventually it's going to take over, and I just want to let you know, if you're watching this, that I will help round up the humans that haven't. That's a message.
You were
Skynet.
You were
robot overlords.
I can get in those difficult areas that other people won't be able to get to round them up. But let's worry about, oh God, he's going to replace us. Well, when it can write a word properly, or when it can do a picture of a human without 72 fingers, that's it. What Nathan Emerson did brilliantly, and I think he saw it over in NAR in the States, he said that AI isn't going to replace you, but an agent using AI effectively definitely will. I think that is absolutely, it is just another tool. The thing is, it is the equivalent of, what's the film about a nuclear weapon is? Oppenheimer, it's the Oppenheimer of tools for you, because this one now let out is the days of worrying about sort of the ethicality, the morality of this. Lots of people talking about, I think Jerry was talking potentially, and I think some people have thought about it, about having human branded stuff. That we're way past that stage. The genie's out the bottle in terms of there. All that matters is it good content and everything else. And like with all waves, you want to make sure you're on top of it than under it, don't you? So you've got to get around. Now the question is, and we did a lot of surveys about this, is where do you start? So finding, it's absolutely right and proper. Please talk to us if you want to. We've been asking all the tech companies, what are you doing at the moment? What are your plans for it? What's interesting, we also did surveys about it, and it was about 50% of agents thought there wasn't going to be much happening over the next year, but 80-odd% felt that it's going to be an absolute game changer over the next 2 years, and I'd absolutely concur. I think it will be one of those ones that, where we sometimes
do you think there's still a little bit of arm's length?
Yeah.
There's that uncertainty.
Definitely. But we've been threatened with blockchain, the huge disruptor for 8 years. Yeah. Hasn't done it. Just because of that, the first waves take a while. Look at QR codes, dead in the water. In comes COVID, launched by COVID, and it's back everywhere, isn't it? So, but AI is different to that. And if you think back why you should get involved, tech, if it's about anything, is doing more with less. That allows you to.
But it's like the internet, the first kind of phase of when the internet came in, and there was that kind of. There's big talk about.
You've seen the growth of the social media platforms. That one where they always come along and they say, Twitter took X number of years to grow to that, Facebook there, and it just gets faster and faster. Look at that in terms of what AI is doing. So it's exactly the same as the internet, but just like everything, it's happening far faster and everything else there. Yeah. So because it's, this whole thing about, it's always a difficult one, I thought, that internet of things, everything being connected. Well, AI is just on everything.
Well, I was talking to Mark the other night, and he said, name one of your, Mark Burgess, by the way, Iceberg. He said, give me one of your vendors. So I said, why is that? He goes, I'm just going to send you something. So I gave him an address and name. Within 30 seconds, he's given me a full report to a fairly accurate tone for me to just drop in 2 or 3 sets of details. And the report was an update for that vendor to consider before we had our phone call to talk about their marketing, their strategy and everything else. So this is literally produced this. It was incredible.
So funny you say about this sort of singularity of the website, CRM and marketing journeys coming together. So this is So Mark Burgess is a business partner with Matt and I in By Design.
Yeah.
And obviously that runs on Lifecycle.
Yeah.
And so Lifecycle is the CRM and the nurture journeys.
Yeah.
And on the same wavelength as you, when he's just built as a website company called Neuron. So By Design are the first company to get a Neuron website, which does all those three things.
Yeah.
So now that the AI that's in the back end of Lifecycle is now going to be on the front end of the website as well, and it all becomes interconnected. And that's exactly where it's going. You're right.
You have
You're
to
like
get
an
rid of
oracle.
Chinese walls. I know. The good thing is I predict everything. So I say that AI is going to be a failure and it's going to be a success. And if you could edit this out, whichever one comes through, that'd be amazing.
But you're right about what Nathan Emerson said. It's the agent that uses it, in the right way. So that example that I've just shared, it helped me to get the right strategy because the vendors could see enough detail with the right tone. It helped set up the call, and it's still all about the call. It's still all about having the conversation with the client. That didn't do it for me, but it set me up. Same with writing details and so on and so forth.
So the other one is, and I've got to disclaim, I've got a massively biased as I am with absolutely everything here, but I as a point is non-exec for Prospector-Pro. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
Now Prospector-Pro is absolutely, and I've got this reputation for being involved and investing in it. Absolutely, I'm like the Andy out of Little Britain for PropTech. I want that one. It's not actually true. I don't get in, I don't invest in everything. I mean, I got involved in RAM, but that was a different kind of opportunity there. But Prospector-Pro was, if you can, the thing about Josh Freegan, who's absolutely fantastic, and I asked him when he came over last time, I said, still telling everyone, how intelligent is that? Phone all your past clients. And he says, I'll stop doing it when you guys start doing it. And that's it, isn't it?
Brilliant.
And his problem is...
Just a mic drop there.
It's just absolutely... Yeah, he's not that at all. So the effect, he says the 6-footer, wasn't that good. So, but he's absolutely right. And anyone, Stephen Brown, your Ian Whites, people like that, the phone is... I said actually Excel was the supplier of the year. Of course, the good old-fashioned phone, which most people... frustratingly in this industry where it's all about to be contact, use it less as an actual phone rather than...
But do you think PropTech has made estate agents less likely to use the phone?
Yeah, you can be bad busy. The easiest thing in the world to be bad busy, look at it for me, on social media and everything else, and you can waste time, energy, being bad busy. You can succumb literally at the end of the day, and what have you actually done?
Being bad busy, I love that. It's so true.
You don't have to, the 10 before 10 is still, if somebody does 10, you've heard the 10 before 10, 10 phone calls before 10, Pete and I and many others do that. If you stick to that, you will outperform 90% of your competitors without a shadow of a doubt. So why I'm really fascinated going back to what that is, you get in the Stephen Browns, you get in the Claire Yates, you get in all these trainers, and your teams are up here bouncing off the wall. The next 3 weeks, they absolutely hit it, and then life hits them. You get tired, you get out of practice, and so the productivity falls off there. Yeah, this is where technology has to work hand in glove with the people, doesn't it? And it has to systemize it and make sure that's consistent.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the right tech shows you who to call, doesn't it? It gives you the direction of who to ring, but it's not it's still the conversation that takes place. Yeah. And a lot of companies that I speak to now who ask about training and everything, it's almost like they're trying to get their culture to understand how important this part still is, because everyone's fallen out of habit of speaking to people. They're using WhatsApp, text message, email, not so much, but they're not using the phone. The basics, the basics of having a conversation or going to visit someone face to face and having a conversation. So all the tech in the world can get you so far, but it won't take you.
I call it the Stevie Wonder test.
Go on then.
Which is,
I can't wait to hear this.
Get ready, Mike.
You can walk into an office blindfolded. This is where the relevance was, and you can tell a great agent. I've been into your offices, there's a buzz about it. I always remember going into the streets ahead and people like that. You absolutely know from that buzz of people on the phones, whereas if you walk in there, you can hear the creaker and everything else there. It is about that. It's about having that right culture and everything else on the back of it. And unfortunately, as you'll know yourselves, and you must all laugh as well when you walk past so many competitors and they're just aimlessly looking off into or again, just on the social media and everything else there. So that for me, and your point about it, I think we're turning the dial on that most important thing, what could be more important apart. That's why I love, again, going back to Akaboom, it's about the MA conversion rate. Well, and being able to win the business to prospect, the Glenn Ross approach in terms of everything else, and being able to look at what the conversations are that are helping closes, what are the behaviours, all that sort of stuff. That's game changing. I think this is the thing about AI. We've been blown away, haven't we, by the first iteration?
Yeah.
Which is, let's be honest, it's a bit gimmicky. It's great. It's about content. That's the absolute tip of the iceberg. When you're going to start looking, it's going to start doing data and research and trends, brilliant in itself, rather than having data scientists. When you're looking at automation, so you're, Ian Preston of Preston Baker, fantastic agent, obviously there, playing around with Salesforce, the biggest in the world there, and the way that they've put into play, tech and automation there. He's thinking that he's going to be able to either repurpose or get rid of pretty much all the administrators. And here's the thing: everyone worrying about there hasn't been obviously any real wage growth for years. He's able to pay, I can't remember what it was, more something like 20% more to his existing staff members. The ones that are delivering. So he's going to have a higher caliber of agent, which has been one of the biggest challenges about keeping it in.
I was training his team about 6 weeks ago.
Well, you'll claim that was all down to you then.
There you go. Yeah.
And if you don't,
that's the 20%. That's the 20%, mate.
That's what you wanted me to say, wasn't it? You just gave it there.
You teed me up beautifully. But I still think estate agents, if they really understand tech, and it's not to replace them, it's to enhance and leverage them, they'll get it quickly.
It's the absolutely laziest thing ever, isn't it? Is for people to say, I don't need tech. And this is the challenge at the Prime end, by the way. So I didn't do I was going to actually say the agent then, and you'd have to bleep that out. Because I was really pretty crap at sales, was no good at tech, which is a bit of a downfall for a tech salesperson. So I always used to let my clients do the hard sell for me, or as they called it now, your super fans and all that sort of stuff. And I mistakenly took one top-end agent into one of the top 2 in the country. And I hadn't done my research in terms of how the person was using it. He says, it's absolutely fantastic, this system. He says, you can put all your appointments in here. And I said, and what about anything else? Like, that's all I use it for.
Oh, no!
So that point, again, in terms of you can lead the horse to water and everything else, and about leveraging it. But the challenge of that prime part of the marketplace is that, no agents in the world, I can say hand on heart, can't be improved with the right tech, implemented in the right way.
Well, we've just had a lady from DDRE, Daniel Dagg's group, and talked about some pretty amazing tech there. How that can help collaborate with agents in New York and how they can work together for their clients. I mean, it's like you say, it's how it's used.
And that collaboration, anything that helps collaboration, what the prime thing is about, the Gary Hershams of the world and people like that. Because their problem is that it's all locked in up here. And your challenge for the brand is always going to be with those people trying to tease it out for the best possible reason, looking after the brand. Where they're like, it's the wrong analogies, but like in the way that a hairdresser walks out and takes all of their clients with them. That's exactly it. And there's a brand damage element around it. So when we rolled out other top end agencies, that what's in it for you to put it in here and to do all that, to make sure that it's right for the brand and for the person is tremendously important.
So, changing the subject, in other news, CoStar are buying on the market.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? And what do you think it's going to mean for agents in the UK?
Oh, that's lovely. Their most difficult thing is that obviously, if you look at it from the negative point of view, I'm always a glass half empty sort of person, is that for years they've been the agent's portal. They can't go down that route. So that's really different. So that, I'll be deleting all sort of mentions of that. Like politicians who delete all their tweets. No, we never said that. CoStar, of course, what the point is now, well, the gloves are off, aren't they, in terms of the funds? I have a huge amount of time for both Jason Tebb, Damien, a lot of people there. I think what they've done from being almost anonymous to really putting that back on is absolutely fantastic there. I always worry about and I'm not doing this from a little Englander point of view, but that Americanization where they don't get it. We've seen plenty of examples of companies that have gone far too much down that route, of course, and take our time we are a very particular individualistic marketplace. So I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think they're only going to increase their building up these tectonic plates, building in terms of this suppliers world, mergers and acquisitions. Obviously, my old mob they merged with PayProp again the other day. Jason's gone down that route, doing fantastic deals with the likes of Spriff, Tetlec, and everything else like that. That's only going to improve. What was one of their stats? I can't remember. Was it £9,000 or £10,000? They were saying they could save the average agents if they took advantage of all of those kind of things. And your old mob nurture doing it. You've got I Am Property doing that. You've got Reapit doing it. We're trying to do that obviously there. So that's really, really interesting. You've got more choice than ever before as to, again, which tribe or more than one tribe you want to go to, and to make sure that you're not getting your hat nailed on by you're seen as just a single office or smaller agent.
Right move, Toppler?
nothing's. So let me just recap there. So my frustration with Rightmove is, first of all, it's brilliant, and it does what so many businesses, certainly me, forgot all along, is we concentrate on the supplier side of just trying to win your business, the business principles. And that's obvious in terms of there. But what we should be focusing on is what the biggest prop tech of all, Rightmove, do, which is focus on the agent's own clients, the consumer. If you serve them, it doesn't really matter about anything else. Now, would
you say they've gone too far?
Of course they have.
Right.
You know, no, this is what really does. I've always said, if there was a proper contender, whether that's your Facebook.
It's amazing though. It started with estate agents.
Yeah.
It started with the top estate agents, or the biggest corporate estate agents.
Yeah,
Back in
absolutely right, and cashed out of it fantastically well, as they all did. But that point about that you will see the quickest ever collapse of a multi-billion-pound company if there was a and this is the massive if there was a competitor. Now there isn't a competitor on there. You know, they've even stopped talking about it, isn't it? They've repositioned themselves. What's it called now? Is it Homely, Zoopla, and and
Houseful.
Houseful. And so them and on the market have gone down that route, I think very cleverly, started what Alex Chesterman did, and has put together that, you know, that services group in terms of, we can provide you this, that, the other. But what's interesting is you don't talk about them taking the pot shots as you used to always do. And it must be so frustrating for obviously the likes of ZPG, because ZPG were almost in touching distance, weren't they, when funny enough OTM came along. That exclusivity was meant to take down Rightmove, and of course the only one it affected was 3,000 agents came off Zoopla, wasn't it, there? So it strengthened them, and again, everything else. I just think, and I've always had this view, is we know, you know, I think we've explained to most people that we have dashboards for agents where they put their suppliers in their own suppliers, and they put net promoter scores anonymously in there. What's fascinating when we talk to agents and we quiz them on that when they Rightmove clients is, and you get to the first question about, you know, how do you feel? Oh yeah, charged you about bastards, this, that, and the other. And then you actually get into it and they realise they're not being overheard. But actually, in terms of what it delivers, saves me 3 negs, you know, it's cheaper than paper advertising ever was. So I'd have to market purely on that basis, taking the attitude out, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. And what really is interesting again there, though, is it comes back is the deciding factor, the USP I've seen there, the secret sauce, is when they have a brilliant account manager. So that point again, when you're working with somebody who does
someone who genuinely knows the system inside out, they'll come in and they'll support you, give you advice, ideas, come back, follow up. It's just getting those. It
is. Look, I think there's so many. I have a huge amount of time. Obviously, my old mate Christian Bolson's there. I saw Van Milder there. He's one of the most, you know, one of the top professionals in the industry. Marship side. I always remember when Ed Mead, Douglas and Gordon was having again a pop at Rightmove, and regardless of the rights and wrongs of it, and back then I probably would have sided with what he was saying there. But Miles got on the phone to him, you know, and didn't say anything himself, but just to address the points, put their side of it. And Ed came back and said, look, I still don't agree with what's said, but the fact that that man has picked up the phone and do it, he's an absolute diamond. When he leaves that business, as I said, is you know, that's a really, really sad day, absolute Goliath in the industry there. And that's probably because he was obviously a great agent in his own right there. Ian Chapman, there's plenty of fantastic people there, and, you know, find you're happy and everything else. Well, I think practice what you preach in terms of that. They could tone that down just a little bit. Get involved, I think, far more. You know, they used to fund agents giving. I promise I'm not doing this because, again, I'm biased. I'm on the agents giving board. But that was genuinely an absolute massive sign that they were giving back to the industry. And, you know, you judge people by their actions, don't they? Which is why it's got me into a lot of trouble. But that, I think, is
do you see the battle commencing with co-stars?
Yeah, absolutely right. I think it's going to be accelerating from 2024. I think those two together, first jostling for position, you know, with each other, and then getting on from that point.
Will estate agents be going, oh, hang on a minute?
Well, this is what I think.
We're going to have 2 sets of fees now.
Well, look at what happened. So what happens is, so suppliers talk about the Rightmove paradox, that in terms of what we're all fighting over, let's be honest, is what's left at the end of, you know, after agents have spent on Rightmove. So if they're spending 70% on the Rightmove sort of, you know, a fee there, then there's only that to go around. Now, you can't then add in OTM and Zoopla on top of it. That would be absolute madness for what most agents would say. And, you know, some of your agents were on there just the other day saying they can do well. Christian Byfield famously came off it. As far as I'm concerned, the fella's still doing incredibly well and, you know, spending money on helmets and winning awards left, right and centre.
That's it.
What the Viking has to do with the tenancy process, I have no idea.
But it's not your job to know.
It's not my job to critique other people. I just do it well.
I agree with what you said, though. I think that the fight will be on in 2024. That'll be the year of the portals. But I can't ever think it's going to be the agents that end up the loser out of that. Because all you end up doing with creating another Zoopla, which is funded by American or Canadian money, is it? Silver Lake or something?
I thought it was American, but you might be right.
Probably American. And then you create another one on the market. It's just another invoice.
So the great fallacy is that people talk about, I promise this isn't, again, going back to Russell Quirk and my champagne socialism, that choice is always beneficial. It absolutely isn't. Just because they split off all the water companies and everything else, that's an absolute disaster, isn't it there? Look at with the TV companies. So we all moaned at Sky having the monopoly on it there. How much do you pay now from being on? I don't even know if BT supports, but there's so many. You've got Amazon here, you've got that there.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's about what there should be is much stronger regulation in terms of it. So I'm always a big fan, and I think it's a sign of a healthy industry if there's competition there.
Yeah.
But I have difficulty in believing that it's going to add something different. That's why I spent a lot of. It didn't work out, and I think it's that difficulty about starting with free and then building from there. Your home tracks had a challenge when they went down that route of obviously trying to do that in the portals place. And I think that is very true of booming as well. But listening to when Michael was explaining what they were trying to achieve to generate genuinely new market appraisal opportunities rather than just vomit out an appraisal lead and then all the agents fight over it. Again, go back to Australia. In one of those, because all I do really is 8 people and tell them and blow smoke. I went around Australia. One of the first times I went to AREC was about 13 years ago, or whatever else. And it served me really well just blowing smoke. And I've been telling the likes of Matty Hayson, James Toster, all these absolute stars over there have fantastic work. You're rock stars. You're amazing. Honestly, we don't have anything like us poor people in England. Your fees are amazing.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Let's go to the pub.
They don't need to hear it.
No, they're too arrogant already. And I hope this does go live over there. We're going to break your market in a good way. And then I met a guy called Mark McLeod. And if you haven't come across him, Ray White's, I think he's the strategy officer. And I sat down with him just before AREC and sat down and started going down this well-rehearsed line now in terms of, they're rock stars. He said, fucking idiots, mate. What? He said, they're all fucking idiots. He says, they're all fighting after that appraisal of today. They've got to be rock star agents because you're going in there. Whereas we have 20 and 30-year-olds just new to it. But because we've spent time nurturing those leads, with all these fantastic tools out there that you can get and everything else. So whether that's your Spectre, whether it's your Sprift, if it's your data loft, all of these tools that enable you to build that brand up over time and everything else there, deliver on it, because ultimately, whether you get the absolute pinnacle, which is an uncontended, obviously, an appraisal, or at least you're one of the 3 or 4 that gets invited in, that's massively important. And the other thing about this is their statistics. And if you think about them, they're Ray White, Australia's biggest agent. But they're a bit more, not just like a Countrywide were over here. They were much more like Foxtons in terms of their attention to detail and data. And they were able to show that they were able to get 20% higher fee from those, just by nurturing those past clients. Because our first
trust has been won.
The trust has been won. And what's our first thing to do is give away a fee because we feel we've got to give a past client a discount. That's insane, isn't it? They know you've done the job. By all means, treat them well and everything else there, but don't just give 10, 20% away.
That's it. Changing the subject again, Matt, you might not know
I could
this.
do any subject.
Well, we'll see.
Oh.
I'm just worried
apart from upfront information.
Where's this
watch me glaze over there.
Anyway.
You might not know that Simon's been through it recently. He's had a bit of a dark moment. And that was...
Kept it quiet.
No, I'm not talking about your attention seeking. I'm talking about spending 24 hours in custody of Quirky.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
How was that?
It was great. It was great because, as I said before, he was thinking, oh God, I don't know what's going. He insisted straight away. He loved it.
I mean, he would have paid more.
He was like a kid at Christmas.
He would have paid more.
He was a kid at Christmas who should have got cold because he's so evil. And the idea, he first of all took me to and kind of blindfolded me and then opened my eyes. And this was the only time I was genuinely scared. It was a tattoo parlor.
Yeah. Oh, I saw that, mate.
And I'm terrified of obviously any sort of pain or anything like that. So, and I knew what he was going to do. So he took me in there, and luckily it was a temporary one, but he gave me the I Love Rishi on the side. So he walked me around. Then he took me to Wetherspoons, thought it was hilarious. He made me have the salad.
Yeah.
So I was able to say, well, actually, it's probably good that I'm not drinking the booze and eating salad at the moment anyway. Then he took me to Margaret Thatcher's plinth. Yeah, I know. I didn't even know it was called that. Maybe kiss that as well, with an I Love Thatcher shirt. And as I said, the one that, and so it was just like all this sort of stuff, and Just Stop Oil walking around. I love Just Stop Oil, so that was absolutely fantastic. But he is, he really, really had a lot of fun that day.
He got his money's worth.
Yes, because he was doing it for Dom, he did it as a fantastic
brilliant idea. But I think a lot can be taken away about seriously. People are taking life a bit too seriously these days.
Well, you'll know my view on that.
I mean, but the fact is, you've got different views. But you still find a way
I think that's so important. So although I completely lose it and rage at people, is, where you'll do that with a lot more, obviously, with strangers. But yet, sit across the table from my mum who voted for Brexit when I was in hospital. She knocked out my epidural. I will forgive her. You can have really, really different views, but actually at the end of it, and it's a very British thing. Let's just have a pint. She sort of comes.
But that feels like that's gone a little bit. It's like,
I think it is because of this, because of the echo chamber. You've got to. I try really hard not to block people. Because getting caught, I think that is so dangerous. You're end up in a rabbit hole where all you're hearing is the same old. But that's when it's so easy to that, and people are just telling you you're 100% right, and everything you don't want to hear. This is the most corrosive thing of all, fake news, where it goes, I'm sick of experts, and that is definitely, as evil as he is, that he elucidated that perfectly. People don't like to be told if it's a complex issue that they're wrong. They just say, I've seen a YouTube video. It's like they say is your 5-second search on Google does not destroy my medical degree. Yeah, pretty much there. And I know I'm an intellectual. People hate this, but I don't care.
That's it. Right. Well, we have a bit of a closing tradition on this podcast.
Yeah.
As you know, as our number one fan, no doubt.
Well, yeah.
But this only applies to you, and the rule is your middle name and your first pet's name. But we're going to make an exception. Unless you have the most hilarious middle name that anyone's known, we're going with your surname.
The whale has to be done. So, and what was it? In the name of what?
Your first pet's name.
He's not really been watching, has he?
No, he's faked it. I mean, I say that. I forget every time. I have to write it down.
Can I tell you, actually, that is really, really true. This is normally what I do. So we went to the Blue Sky conference in LA, and we went and saw, what was it, Selling the OC?
Right.
Never seen it before in my life, but we were going in to see the fella there the day afterwards. So I did my normal. I watched the end of season review and acted like I'd seen all 4 seasons. I absolutely love what you do. Complete bullshit. And when I was able to blag it and get away with it. So so Whale, Max Whale. It's not quite Max Power, is it? No.
Max Wales. It's not bad though, Max Whale.
Max Wales. It sounds more like a power drink.
Well, welcome to January.
Yeah, Jan, as it definitely is.
As the new year started as you expected.
Anyone who follows, deal with that.
Well, I think we've got away with that without being cancelled. It's not been too controversial. In fact, the opposite. I'd say your ability to name drop from the industry is absolutely unbelievable.
Now, when we tag all those people, I guarantee that is going to be the most watched.
Can you you need to make sure we write all of these people down. There's a lot.
No chances.
AI can't keep up with me.
That
was really good, fellas.
Good to see you.
Simon completes our holy trinity of Simons. We've had Ledbetter, we've had Gates, and now we've had Whaley 2.0.
Whaley 2.0.
Thank you so much for coming on today. And that has been 100 miles an hour of information, but I've loved every minute of it.
And actually, it was genuine information rather than if it'd been old Whale, it was. It was very. You saw me at the tennis, didn't you?
Yes. Oh my God. I'm glad I escaped when I did.
Yeah, that was
right.
You did do that.
Well, we've not been cancelled, and much like Whaley himself, we live to fight another day.
Good to do. We do. Right. Good stuff.
So,
thanks, fellas. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Property Porn Stars. If you've liked what you've heard, of course you have, because how could you not?
I didn't know we were still rolling at the end of that.
Yeah. Oh, we missed something. I could have just shut up and let you say something that would have got us cancelled.
I was going to get all. Yeah, wow, that's lucky.
Stop there, mate. Anyway, go.
Well, that's an old trick. That is. Just keep the camera rolling. Wow.
Did you see that lady on the news?
Well, quick while we're at
What, the finger?
Yeah. I mean, talking about stitch. That's classic.
We will quit while we're ahead. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.